Welcome to Value Through Vulnerability. This is a podcast dedicated to putting the human back into humanity. And this evening, I'm really excited to introduce you, the listener, to Chris Lovett, who is a performance and leadership coach and also minimalist. So good evening, Chris.
Hi, Gary. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir. As we get going, would you mind giving our listeners, as we've got someone else involved in the conversation right now, a little bit more about you? You know, how did you come about this minimalist term? Because I think it's quite an interesting one. And, and is there any other passions that float your boat day to day, Chris?
Yeah, well, I suppose, Gary, it's a weird journey, Gary. You know some of it, but I will fill people in on what happened. So you're kind of going around life and you're drifting along and you've got your 9 to 5. You go through your yearly appraisals, you buy your house, all these life things all tick off. And then before you know it, 10 years has gone by and you've been in the same role, been in the same job, and you can't really remember what you've achieved over that amount of time. And you forget what your values are and what's important to you. So something happened to me and my partner where traveling became this big important thing in our life. But what we'd done is we created so many obstacles in the way. We'd had a little bit of debt. We had busy lives, or what we thought were busy lives. We both had 9 to 5 jobs. And we also had a lot of clutter. So our home was filled with stuff, basically, that we'd accumulated over time. So the decisions that we'd had made around purchases and things like that, all of a sudden were stored in all the spaces that we've got in our home. And traveling was our passion, and that is what we wanted to do. But actually what we'd done is we created like a prison, and we couldn't go traveling because apparently we were too busy. We had debt, so we had no savings of note. We lived month to month, but actually we weren't really living at all. And obviously all the clutter that we had gathered over the course of years together and then moved in together. We had lots of clothes and purchases over the years that we just kept in boxes. Because obviously the whole point in buying a property together is just fill the space with your crap, I suppose, right? But there was layers of stuff, physical and mental stuff, blocking us from doing the one thing that we wanted to do, which was go traveling. So that's why we really struggled to shake it off. And that is how I came across minimalism. So I actually stumbled across it by mistake, where I was exploring mindfulness with my team to help support them through different changes in their lives and in their roles, etc. I didn't really know what it was, so I researched a little bit more. I found this community of people that were just shedding their belongings, and then all of a sudden they had more time to do the things that they actually wanted to do. And obviously that's what I wanted. I wanted a bit more time, and I wanted to go traveling. But these people were an inspiration, but what they were doing wasn't actually groundbreaking. Because all they were doing is just removing some rubbish from their home. And I was thinking, how hard could that be? How hard could clearing out your stuff that you don't use? It couldn't be that difficult, surely. And how could that thing that I thought be so trivial be so enlightening? But actually, once you start doing it, your mindset shifts, and all of a sudden you start to unlock the potential in you, and you go on this magical journey around understanding what adds value to your life. You understand what the important things are in your life, and you prioritize them, and you do it more. And you end up getting rid of stuff that you don't want, doing stuff that you don't want to do. And then you take it into all parts of your life. You can take it into your personal life, into your work life, all sorts. So that's why I am quite passionate about minimalism and how it can help people actually shed some of the weight that's on them and actually just be a completely full 100% potential of themselves.
God, that's such an awesome intro. I'll tell you what's coming up for me straight away, and I think it's really interesting. And one of the themes of this podcast, as you know, Chris, is actually around mindset. But I just think that phrase you just used, shedding the physical and mental stuff, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't think, we talk a lot about shedding physical weight, but we don't talk about really shedding the weight that's on our mind, do we?
Well, that's it. I mean, the way into minimalism is through the physical. I've researched a lot of people, and there's a lot of minimalists out there that are more kind of American. I've not really met any UK-based minimalists yet. But what they tend to do is start with your physical. So all the stuff around you, because it's easier to control and it's easier to action. So if you've got a box of stuff in your garage that you've not used for 20 years, the physical act of removing it from your garage and taking it to a charity shop, selling it, or taking it to a rubbish tip, that physical act is quite easy. It's that next phase of that mental stuff, of that, the mind clutter. That's where it gets a little bit more tricky, but that's where you gain the most value.
And do you mind speaking to that a little bit? So maybe back to your journey again. You wanted to go traveling. You clearly started to sort of remind yourself of what you held more dear, what was more important, your values, etc. What are some of your biggest challenges in terms of you sort of dealing with that mindset, that mental side of minimalism for you?
Yeah, so when I was in my role in my previous company, I didn't have a lot of drive to achieve personal goals. I was passionate about what I did at work. I enjoyed the place that I worked at. I enjoyed the people that I worked at. But there was always something in the back of my mind that I should be achieving something else. I should be doing more. And it was a heart to heart with my partner, actually. And she was a bit like, look, I'm younger than you. So I've got more energy. That's true. I want to go traveling. I want to do these things, but it seems that you've got quite a bit in the way. And I'd always wanted to do it, but there was always something stopping me from doing something. And whether it was too uncomfortable, or I'd just create these excuses and things like, I can't because there might be a role coming up soon for me that I could go for. Or, there's a big family event that I can't miss and things like that. So there was always something in the way coming up that was blocking me doing something. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I mentioned earlier around the accumulation of the debt and then the accumulation of the stuff and being busy all the time. They were the layers. So what we ended up doing was just going for it and actually booking a date. And we booked a date where we were going traveling, but we didn't actually have any funds to pay for it. So we contemplated getting a loan, borrowing money, but that would just exasperate the issue that we had in the first place, which was we had a bit of debt and we had too much stuff. What we ended up doing was selling everything. So I looked around my home and it was just full of stuff. You work on your wardrobe, and I realized that I hadn't worn some of the clothes for years. I'd go through the t-shirts and I'd be thinking, I don't even think that fits anymore, but I'm still keeping hold of it. Why? And then it was while I was getting rid of this stuff, I found the difficulty and I found the blockers, because actually what the stuff and all the decisions that I'd made over the years, what the stuff had done is they're all parts of me. And for me to get rid of the stuff would mean that I'd be getting rid of part of me, and therefore I couldn't do that thing anymore. A prime example being football kits. So I collected football kits to play football in, but then I stopped playing football, but I kept the kits even though I didn't wear them. So all they were doing was just creating clutter and taking up extra room. And we're talking, I had like 50, 60 kits. All the home away third shirts from seasons gone by, and I'd never wear them. And I'd look at that and I'm thinking, but if I get rid of that, that means I can't play football anymore. That was how my mind was. But actually, we all know that's not true. I could just go out and play football if I wanted to. But that was that blockage that getting rid of my stuff had. Same with guitars as well. If I got rid of my guitars, does that mean I've lost my passion in music? Well, no. It just means I haven't played guitar for 2 years. Give it to someone else who add value. They can get value from it. And so it was clearing all of that stuff that actually helped my mind be a bit more freer. And as we got to the end and we got rid of all of our debt, we saved lots of money. We actually then sold our property, sold the car. I took a career break at work. My partner quit her job. And we went traveling, and halfway through our travels was then at the moment then I thought I could live quite happily with a lot less than what I've got. And it was then when we were traveling, when we lost half of our clothes. We took far too much and had to send some of it home. but we were experiencing lots of different things and growing as people. We didn't have any of the stuff. So it was marrying that up, and actually that's where we became a bit more minimalist. And I've tried to bring that into my new life now as a performance coach.
That's amazing. I'd like to come back to the because I think it's fascinating, Chris, that you've got this blended role. This sort of passion for minimalism, but also you're a performance coach within the banking sector. So I want to come back to that if I may.
Yeah.
But I'd like just to touch. I think a really beautiful and insightful comment you just shared was getting rid of my stuff felt like getting rid of part of me. I think the identity thing is so powerful, isn't it, with regards to materialism?
It is. And the issue is that it's thrown in front of us every day. So I don't know how many adverts you've seen today, Gary, on your walk to work or your commute, or if you're working at home, how many emails you've got that are trying to sell you stuff. It is very difficult out there. We are bombarded with information every day, and it's almost like you have to buy this thing because society says you have to. So therefore, we end up purchasing those things. And actually, the reality is we don't need that stuff at all. What's come up recently? We've had Amazon flash sales, Amazon Prime Day. We've got Black Friday coming up in a few months. All of this stuff is saying, these deals are too good to be true. You need all this stuff, where in reality is all you really need is your values and a purpose to go ahead and achieve what you want to achieve.
I know our mutual friend Rich Cooper's going to laugh because it's happening yet again. Like, I'm literally listening to you, Chris, because what's coming up for me is you explain this journey, and you're so present and so calm with it, which is beautiful to hear, is like what you're experiencing and what you believe in is I can't even say the word, it's the complete antidote basically to the excessive consumption and consumerism we've all been brought up on for the last 60 years.
Well, the antidote, potentially. Yeah, potentially. There's having a more minimalist mindset can help you in various ways. There is a spectrum. I'm not here to preach around that you need to live off grid or have 100 items or less. It's not a race to the bottom or anything like that. It is literally a mindset and a lifestyle that you can tailor to you based on your own your own life and how you're going about different things, your own work environment, things like that. So if you work in a corporate environment, you can bring it into a corporate environment and use that mindset to have a look at your meetings, your emails, the stuff you've kept in your drawer all those months that you've never looked at. How you're adding value. Are you attending meetings where actually it's going to be 2 hours long, but we're done talking after 30 minutes, but the rest of it is just chit chat. So there's so many areas that you can take and put into your own life to make it work for you, which is what is so great about minimalism, and how I've then utilized it and almost created this bespoke lifestyle for myself that suits my partner and my dog as well. It all suits us perfectly, and it gives you that courage to say, no, that doesn't really add value to me. I'm not going to do that anymore. Or actually, I want to spend more time with the people that I like, because I get great value out of spending time with lots of people. So you'll end up prioritizing your list of things that you want to do and doing more of it. Which is great. Why would you not want to do that?
What a great provocation. What a great provocation. I think, so I'm just trying to think back now to some examples from my side, Chris. So there's a word coming up for me, which is intentional. So it's clear that you're very to be more minimalist on this spectrum that you're talking about. You need to be intentional about taking action to be more minimalist. Would that be a fair? It's not something that's going to sort of arrive in your lap.
That's it. Yeah, there is a certain sense of you need to take action, and it's almost, you can marry it back to, I want to be more healthier, I want to lose weight, I want to be fitter. You start off by taking action, and it's not like you don't go to the gym one time, do 20 sit-ups and think, I've got a six-pack now. It doesn't work that way. You keep on going, and what you do is you create these habits. So your first step, for me, I would recommend the first step being taking action in your environment, in your physical environment, and whether that is your car, you know, your desk, your work environment, your home, garage, loft, whatever it is, and ask questions. You know, there's a box there that's got photos in them. Do you need all those photos? Do they add value? You know, if they were so precious to you, you'd maybe put them on display. You know, how do you utilize tech now? You know, you can potentially go and get those photos scanned and have them stored on a USB rather than have the big box that, you know, God forbid there's a fire and you lose your photos anyway. So, you know, it's questioning the thing that adds value to your life. And the more times you ask yourself questions, the more you'll get into a habit of making a quick decision around, does this add value? Does this bring joy to my life? Yes, no. And you can almost wash away a lot of the stuff. But there's that physical element of getting past that first hurdle first, of, you know, going to an area where you know there's a lot of clutter. We'll use a car, for example. If a lot of people drive, and maybe people are driving and listening to this podcast now, and their glove box is full of stuff that they've never even seen or used for years. The boot has got loads of stuff in it that actually was supposed to take to the tip a few months ago, but it's still there. You know, there's loads of areas where you can just start creating these little habits, and then you get into a role, and before you know it, you've changed career, you've gone traveling, you've gone all sorts of stuff, and it's because of that first physical step that you take, you can then change your mindset.
I'm just digesting this, Chris. It's brilliant, and it's unlike any other conversation I've had in the first 63 discussions on this podcast. And what's lovely though is you are really touching on a lot of the themes, such as we spoke about mindset. You're speaking about the courage to say no. And something that's coming up for me, and I appreciate you challenging or sort of expanding, is that there's something for me around. I've just made a note here around sort of like intention. So you set the intention, you need the courage to take the action, which once you've done that, you get the motivation to create the habit, which leads to progress.
Yeah.
No, that's a sort of a chain that's coming up for me. Does that sound? Would you challenge? Would you add to it?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, with the intention part, Gary, I mean, we don't even necessarily have to go that into that depth, really. Intentional purchases is really where you can potentially start. You know, we could, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're bombarded with discounts. You know, you need to buy this thing now, whatever it is. And we feel obliged to do that because that's just how we've been programmed. And, you know, information is available to us at the touch of a button. I can go and buy something from Amazon today and have it delivered tomorrow. So the ease of buying things is grown and exponentially. So we can just do that and have that thing tomorrow, no problem. But it's having that pause button and saying, right, I need to go and buy a book. And you go, why? Why do I need to buy that book? And it's questioning. And actually, if you need to buy that book, well, you can wait 10 days. And after that 10 days, you can go, right, do I still need to buy that book? Well, actually, you know, I've seen the film now, or, you know, my friend's got it, I can borrow it off them. You know, my work library's got it, I can get it free there. And it's that kind of delay, that intentional purchasing delay, where you give it about 10, 12 days and you go back to it. And if you still want to buy it, then go ahead and buy it. But actually, some of the time, we'll probably forget. And we'll forget why it was so important in the first place. And if it was that important, we'd go back to it and we'd have bought it. But actually, a lot of time, what will happen is you'll forget. It wasn't that important in the first place.
Oh man, I've got my it's my Brené Brown moment. I've got my shame meters going off like a rocket. I'll tell you.
I didn't mean for that to happen, Gary.
No. It's me doing it to myself. It's not at all from you. No, it's from a fun point of view. I'm laughing. I'm looking behind me in my lounge here, and I've literally got 70 books. And every time I buy one, I just love that advice you just gave, which is pause. Give it a week, give it 10, 12 days and see if it matters to you that much that you still want to purchase it. And if it does, that's fine. But give yourself that pause. I think that is such a powerful example, which can be used in all walks of life,
Yeah, exactly. And there is nothing against buying stuff. You know, I like to buy stuff, but I like to buy the right stuff.
Yeah.
Because my resources are finite. And that, you know, when I say resources, I mean, you know, my time, my energy, my money, they're all finite. And it's not just about the purchase. That initial purchase, then that's my money side. I've then potentially got to be home when the delivery arrives, so that's my time. There's the upkeep of that thing as well, which is my time, my energy. I've got to clean it. I've got to store it somewhere. And if I've bought quite a big thing, I might have to buy another thing to store it. So it's just it's that kind of pattern of, if you're buying something, just pause. If you really need it, you will buy it. That's fine. I know you mentioned about the books, Gary. This is a pinch point for a lot of people, and it is an area that I focused on with my own kind of journey through minimalism, is the books. I've still got a few books, but I've probably got about 20% of what I had before.
Yeah.
And that was me asking the question of myself. I did have classic books on my bookshelf. 1984, I had great personal development books. I had travel books of countries that I was intending to go to and then never went. Thrillers that I'd not got round to reading. And it was just a genuine question to myself, going, am I going to read these books? Genuinely going to read these books? Or could I add value to someone else by giving these books to someone who will read them? And that was a lot more powerful for me, knowing that actually I could go to a charity shop, or I could go to my friends and family and say, I have 10 books here that I've never read, and I've had them for 10 years. And I don't intend to read them. So will you gain value from having these books? And people would take books off me for free, and I give them to a charity shop, and someone else can gain value out of them. If at any point I ever want to read that book, on the odd occasion, that 1%, I'll go and buy it again. But that's never happened. That's never happened as long as I've been a minimalist. That's never happened.
That's really cool. That's honestly, it's so insightful. This is really great. I'd like to actually go back a step now. Eliza, I really appreciate you going sort of deeper on your journey into minimalism. But I am intrigued now as to go back a step a bit to your sort of your journey and through work. You mentioned about football already. I know that you've been a coach sort of back in the early 2000s. Bring us up to speed as to how minimalism is helping you in the workplace. You've got this sort of belief in minimalism. Of course, you're doing a lot around it. You're talking about it. But how does that help you be a performance and leadership coach, maybe in a way that it wouldn't have done 2 or 3 years ago, Chris?
It's helped me have the courage to change my career completely. So after traveling and understanding what minimalism was and figuring out that I actually was a minimalist, I had the courage to actually say, this doesn't work for me, and therefore quit my job and start a new career. Going back to the very beginning in my adult life, I always wanted to be a footballer. That was my passion in life. And then after I got to about 17, 18, and I realised that actually I wasn't good enough to be a professional. I probably should have figured that out earlier, but a bit slow then. Was what could I do that's still related to football that interests me? And that was coaching. So I went around and got my professional coaching badges. I travelled to the US and did some coaching over there. But I was coaching kids, but it was all outside of school hours. So I'd be twiddling my thumbs indoors, waiting for the school to finish, and then go down and do some sessions and come home. So I needed something a bit more full time. My mum then asked me to pay rent, so I needed some money. So I got a job in telesales, working in insurance, and that environment kind of took me away from the coaching, and it brought me into what an adult work environment should be like. And I just got caught up. And you go through the journey of, you're good at this, therefore you get promoted here. And you meet your people, like-minded people, and you go on a journey with them, and you start to succeed. You move on, and I found myself in a fraud environment and a financial crime environment in about 2006, 2007. And then 10 years later, I'm still doing that same fraud stuff and just moved companies, but I'm still doing the same stuff. And after I kind of figured out minimalism, I just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I had come across that decision before, but I hadn't done anything about it because I wanted to be safe. I wanted to keep being in that comfort zone and knowing that I go to work, I know what I'm there for, I know what I'm doing, I can come home and be completely fine with that. After being a minimalist and going traveling and really pushing myself out of my comfort zone, as in seriously out of my comfort zone, I thought, you know what, I've grown so much in these last 18 months, I can do it with my career. So I made a mistake and I joined a bank in a financial crime role, thinking that I could also coach at the same time. After about 8 weeks, I found out that wasn't right. But for someone to change their role, you know, so quickly after joining a new company, that, you know, I thought, you know, that's not, are people going to frown? You know, what people going to think? But actually, it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. I wanted to do coaching. And so what I did is I spoke to a lot of people. I opened my mind to lots of podcasts, including yours, Gary, Brené Brown's material, Whitney Johnston's material. The Minimalists have also got their own podcast, and I was trying to absorb all this information to give me the courage and the armory to go, right, I'm going to go and do something that I've never done before professionally. Who's going to take a punt on me? So I spoke to lots of different people around the bank, and I found this role, leadership coaching role, that actually ticked a lot of my skill set. All of a sudden, a job popped up. I applied for it and I got offered it. And like I say, our good friend Rich Cooper, I always say to him that it was lucky, and he always says, "Is it?" So I put these steps in place so I could actually change, you know, course correct my own career. But it was only because I questioned everything around me. Am I adding value? Potentially. Does this role give me purpose? Not really. What will give me purpose? Coaching. Where can I add most value? Coaching. Where's a coaching job? Here. Apply for it. Got it. And then bringing the minimalism into your work, you know, with that mindset of questioning things all the time, I can go to meetings and actually be quite honest and say, yeah, well, we sat there for an hour. We solved the problem in 20 minutes. You know, what we're going to do with that rest of, you know, that 40 minutes extra that you could have had back, and you could have actually gone away and done something else. So, you know, meetings, making sure that, you know, you add value in every meeting, and if it doesn't, why do you do it? Processes, if processes are elongated, if there's 16 steps, why? You know, keeping hold of materials for years gone by, why? So you see a theme, Gary.
It's really powerful what you're speaking to here, though, for me. You know, you've mentioned a few times now around sort of getting out of comfort zone, you know, courage, being curious has come up a lot in our conversation. And of course, you know, this conversation, this podcast is all about those really deeply human elements. And what I'm really enjoying you sharing with your journey and how it applies not only to your personal life, Chris, but at work, is actually by being at least more minimalist, you know, on that spectrum you spoke about, actually sounds like it allows you to step more into your power because you're not overthinking everything.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, I don't know how, you know, the listeners now, how many things they've got going on today. You know, I've got to go to yoga, or I've got to go and pick the kids up, or, you know, I've got to go to work. I've got 12 meetings and I'm double booked for this. It's just, that's what happens. You know, life happens, but you're in control. You can control it, and you can say no to those things that don't add value, not just turn up, you know, and just drift along. You know, I've not mentioned about, you know, disruption yet. You know, we talk, you know, we listen to a lot of Whitney Johnston stuff, and she always talks about disrupting yourself, and you can marry that into minimalism. Minimalism is about disrupting your environment and disrupting yourself. So yeah, I'd recommend minimalism to anyone, or at least dip your toe and see what happens.
That's awesome. And how can people, just out of interest, I think appreciate this is going to go out, this podcast, a little bit after. I think you've got an event this Thursday. Are you doing much speaking? Are you leading sort of other events? What are you doing in terms of trying to bring more of your passion for minimalism to life, Chris, at the moment?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put it into a bit of a motivational, inspirational talk where I can use my journey to help others. Because I think if we've got experience of it, we've gone through certain things, I think it's only right that we then try and share that to help others. So I'm trying to put a 20-30 minute talk together with a Q&A to help people around minimalism, which includes my journey, and also the how-to as well. So yeah, this week is a good opportunity for me to do a bit more public speaking. I'm still new to it. I've done about 3 or 4, and they've all gone down really well, actually. And so I've tweaked each one as I've gone along, and I will eventually find that perfect rhythm where it will add value to people. It will be a little bit humorous. It will test you, and it will question your beliefs, and it will you'll go back potentially going home and going, wow, why have I got all those shirts? That's the purpose of it, is to question you.
Right.
And yeah, so hopefully I can do some more as the year pans out.
That's awesome. And in terms, and again, I'm just being curious myself here, Chris, for myself as well as the listener. If someone was listening now, or if I was interested in maybe getting you in either to do a talk, or might want you to come and facilitate an hour, maybe with some of our leaders or with our team, is that something you're sort of open to doing, both face-to-face and also virtually? Are you sort of open to any suggestion, really?
Without a doubt, Gary, yes, definitely. I've done a couple already in some companies that have been really receptive to it. And people are looking at time-saving habits and minimalism, but not in a context like this. So yes, I am available to come into companies and into communities and talk about how you can be more minimalist. So if people want to reach out, I have a website where I tend to write a little bit, and that is on minimalings.com. So it's minimal and INGS. So I kind of thought, this is what I was procrastinating about, Gary, is a name. And that's what blocked me from then releasing my website. And that was one of the things, I was just get it out there, and the name's fine. So it's minimal things without the CH. So it's Minimalings. There's some writing stuff on there. And there's an opportunity for people to go on there and have a look, see what products are on offer. So I can do some coaching, and I can come in and do some speaking as well. But if you want to just go on there and have a look at some of the articles that I've written, that might tip you and give you some little nudges to go away and maybe start decluttering yourself.
Oh, that's superb. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I've got all sorts of ideas coming up. I can really, really see the value, and I say I'm really challenging my own thinking in this area, because I think there's an article you wrote for Minimalism Life, and I'll share that as part of the podcast notes as well. I just want to share for our listeners one of the things I think is really powerful. So what you spoke about as part of your journey is not only the fact that you became more minimalist with your partner, you got rid of things, it freed up your mind, Chris. But I love how you, in this article, speak about the fact that one of your guitars went to an 8-year-old for his birthday, his first guitar. One of the cameras is now being used by a photography student for their course. I love that community element of actually, it's not just good for you, it's actually ripple effect to society, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If adding value to your community or society, if that is one of the things you want to do, if you give to charity regularly, this is great. And yeah, like I mentioned in the article, the guitar was great. I had some suits as well. I'm not sure if that went into the final version, but I had so many suits, Gary. As I'd gone through my years, I thought, yeah, that suit looks nice. I had purple one, I had a blue one, 2 grey, a few black ones, nice brown one. All a variation of different suits that I would wear to work. And then obviously as work time has evolved, it's a bit more casual dress. So therefore my need to have, 15, 17 suits become a bit redundant. So rather than keeping all of them just in case, I sold some of them and I gave some away. And one of the ones that I sold on eBay went to a 16-year-old, and they wore that to their prom. I mean, the 16-year-old must have been tall, to be honest, but and I don't know what he did in it, and I don't want to know, but to kind of pass that down to someone who's just starting their adulthood, and so for me to know that suit is going to potentially get that guy a good dance, an interview, a job, maybe, then yeah, that adds a lot of value to me, and it adds a lot of value to that individual as well. But it's funny that I mentioned about just in case as well. There's one thing I was going to mention, Gary, is the three dangerous words that I reference when I do my talking is just in case. Because when we're looking through all of our stuff, what we tend to do is we create a scenario in our head that actually gives us an excuse to keep hold of stuff. So one of the examples I wrote about before was I had, those plug extensions. You've got like 4 plugs. You can plug it in, and you've got extend. I had like 8 of those, but it wasn't. I didn't just purchase 8 in one go. But these are decisions that I've made over the course of, I don't know, 10, 12 years. I bought a couple, and then maybe I've gone to my parents' house and took one from there, and my partner had one and she had. But yeah, you collect all this stuff based on decisions that you've made over the course of your life. And then you look at it and you go, why have I got 8 plug boards? Honestly, why have I've got 20 odd different plug points in my flat, and I've got 8 plug boards, which is probably sum up to about 50 odd different plug points. When am I ever going to need to plug 50 things in at the same time? I mean, I don't have that many friends, and to come around and all charge their phone at the same time, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be buying that many electrical items that are going to need 50 plug points. So, but yeah, that was one of those things where I'd create this scenario where I thought, just in case, might need those. But it's just relinquishing that just in case thing and removing that scenario from your head.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Honestly, I'm so excited this evening. I've literally got 10 suits, and I know I think my example of this just in case thing is almost the reverse, Chris. I know for a fact I've got half a wardrobe of stuff that I used to fit in 5 years ago that I keep saying when I get the weight off, I'll be able to fit back in it again. And I might do that one day, but that's not the point. It's it's really interesting. I've not challenged that in a while.
Yeah, and that's it, Gary. And that's another one. The motivation for us to, I'm going to get back into those jeans. That was one of the things that I had. I want to keep that t-shirt. That t-shirt's really cool. It's a bit snug, but I'll keep it because when I lose the weight, I'm going to wear it again. And does it ever happen?
No, honestly.
There you go. And if you want motivators to lose weight, there are other ways to do it. But you can. And if you do you then go back? No. What you do is you buy more stuff. You buy more stuff that suits you now. So yeah, that's one of the key ones. And the great thing about you potentially going away after this podcast, Gary, and taking action is that it's so simple to go away and take action yourself, because we've all got areas of our lives where we can look at and go, do I really need that? And you start to question it. So that is hopefully the fun thing about attending a talk or reading some of the bits that I've written, is that you can go away and start actioning it straight away. And if you keep going into it and you keep, going through the physical items, eventually you'll get that mindset and you'll start bringing it into your other parts of life. And we've not even talked about the digital clutter as well. So that's another thing entirely.
That's a really interesting point. Well, I'm going to be putting out a photo tomorrow to show the pile of stuff that's going to be going to charity.
Wow.
That's happening tonight, and there will be a picture tomorrow for you. So say thank you, Chris, for this insight, because I've just not seen, that just in case, and that as and when and if I fit back in it. I know I've said it to myself, and it's not stressed me. I've not been like, oh no, it's taking up the wardrobe space. But I do know that I'm cluttered in a 2-bed flat down here on the coast, and I've not taken action. I've not been clear enough why I've not got rid of it. And this conversation for me personally, Chris, is so helpful. Honestly, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I mean, Gary, imagine. You do a lot of great stuff now. Can you imagine what more you could do without having extra clutter in your home? Having that extra space to not clean as often as you do because you don't have that much stuff anymore. What are you going to do with that time? You can help more people, potentially. You could do more podcasts, do more talks.
Cool. That is a very exciting prospect. Look, let's do a little bit of your digital, because we've got a few minutes before we have to wrap up. Because it's clearly an element that you're passionate about. So, if you don't mind, share with the listeners your take on minimalism and digital.
Yeah. So again, this is only through my own personal experience, and I do want to add that everything that I've spoken about is through your personal experience, and I've not dramatized it for entertainment purposes. It is all really real and all happened. I've had 4 email addresses, 4 personal email addresses plus my work one. So I get emails constantly. And only recently did I realise that I had 3,000 unread emails in one of my inboxes. And again, these hadn't accumulated in one day. These were just decisions that I made over time where I'd subscribed to stuff that I was interested in at that time. And we could be talking about, cinema, holidays, discounts, clothes, football, whatever it is, you subscribe to these things over the course of time. But what you don't end up doing is unsubscribing, because it's so easy to swipe and just delete it. So therefore you temporarily remove that annoyance from your view, and you just go, I'll get rid of that. And it's gone. But actually 2 or 3 days later, it pops up again. And again, this is a habit of, if you start going unsubscribing stuff that doesn't bring value to your inbox, what you do is you only get the good stuff. So every time you get an alert, you can click on your phone and know, right, that email is going to be good. A good email I can take action from, I can learn from. It could be a friend, but everything that I get in there is going to be valuable. And the same with the clothes. If you don't use, say, 60% of your clothes, you can get rid of it, and you only use your 40%. But imagine if you had 100% of the stuff that you loved. It wouldn't be easy. It would be difficult to make a decision in the morning. And that's what's similar with your digital stuff. You've got your social media. Again, you're in control. You've got your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. If these people accounts are not adding value to your feed, change it. You can control this, and you can curate what you see, and you can minimize your digital impact as well. Same thing in a work environment. Your folders, your emails, delete what you don't need. You can potentially put an auto response saying, if you CC me in this email, I won't look at it. It will also automatically be deleted, things like that. So there's loads of little bits you can do with your phone and your digital life.
I think it's an awesome share, and my God, I'm feeling courageous, Chris. Everyone, as of tomorrow morning, people might find my inbox is empty as I just put this one full stop. No, but seriously, could you imagine how that might actually shift how people interact and communicate, and shift their mindset around relationships if everybody literally put, this email box will not be answered?
Oh, you'll probably know better than me, but if you're CC'd into a lot of stuff, it consciously do I have to do something here, or do I need to know this? It's a constant question, and it disrupts you from doing what you're doing in the first place. And we lend ourselves to that email. Although we try and focus on the task at hand, if an email pops up, we automatically get distracted by it. So the less emails you have, the more time you can focus on actually doing the things that you want to be doing in the first place. So it's an easy fix that can have quite a lot of benefit in the end.
Well, Chris, you've been an absolute joy today, Chris. Honestly, I've learned so much. I know for a fact that our listeners will have learned a lot as well. So just remind us of your website again, and also other ways that people can reach you, Chris, if they want to follow up the conversation with you.
Yeah, so the website is Minimalings. That's Minimalings, Minimalings. You can also email me at hellominamalings@gmail.com. Or you can just connect with me directly on LinkedIn. So I'm Chris Lovett on LinkedIn. You should be able to spot me. My profile picture looks like I'm doing karaoke, but actually I am midway through a motivational speech. So it'd be great to connect with people. And can I throw some stats at you, Gary, to close out?
Please do.
So this is from a Brit's perspective. So if there are any international listeners, you might resonate. But from us Brits, this is what I've researched and found out. So in 2014, the British Heart Foundation did a bit of research around Britain's clutter. So apparently we keep up to £32.7 billion worth of clutter in our homes. That's billion, not million. That was 2014. In 2018, eBay thought they'd follow that up, and they found that actually, after researching with a lot of people, Brits hold up to 48 billion worth of unused items in their homes. Staggering amount. That was last year. This year, a financial company called MyJar have gone on another step, and apparently now saying that Brits are holding £81.6 billion worth of unwanted possessions. That is a lot. So if you're looking for a quick, if you're looking for a quick injection of a little bit of cash to try and sell some stuff, allegedly we're keeping between £500 to £1,700 worth of crap in our household that we don't use. So if you want a little bit of injection of money, it's probably sitting in your home now, in the stuff that you don't use. So just some stats there to finish on, Gary.
That's awesome. Well, it's a very, very powerful message, Chris. So thank you so much. I'm very sure that some people will be following up with you after this. It's a very unique and different take on mindset and how do we unleash our potential, Chris. And really enjoyed speaking to you today. Thanks a lot for your time.
My pleasure.
Take care. All the best.
See ya. Bye.